The wilderness solo season kicks off, setting a new standard for organization. First, 8 contestants underwent skill training. Each was equipped with 10 survival tools, including sleeping bags, waterproof tarps, knives, and saws. The survival location was scientifically assessed for resources to ensure fairness and justice in the competition. With enough creativity, contestants can carve out their own dominion. Jasper was the first to enter. Pointing at a leaning birch tree, he declared it his home for the night. In the wild, they face harsh weather, fierce animals, accidental injuries, and potential emotional breakdowns. For Jasper, a self-proclaimed homebody, the lack of his favorite soda presents the biggest challenge. It is both his strength and source of happiness. As a shaman skilled in botany, he usually uses his mental power to heal others. Now, he must rely on his plant knowledge to feed himself. He found a broken oil drum, which was unsuitable for raft building but perfect for making a fireplace or smoking fish. Using dry bark, he lit a hopeful flame, though he needed to gather more firewood to keep it burning. Along the way, he spotted fresh bear dung. Despite knowing the risks of wolves and grizzly bears, and being equipped with a safety pack for immediate rescue, the actual threat was still nerve-wracking. The attractive female contestant, Emma, is just 21 and aims to be the youngest champion of wilderness solo. It's great for young people to have dreams, though her strength remains to be seen. She quickly predicted rain and chopped down a spruce tree, removing excess branches to create a slanted roof. She then covered it with a waterproof tarp, securing it with stones at the corners. Just as she finished, the rain began to fall. To prepare for this survival challenge, Emma sought advice from her father. For her, a vegetarian of 5 years, fishing and even killing fish were significant challenges. She managed to overcome this hurdle and moved on to processing the fish, starting from scaling to cooking. The camera shifted to show her having set up a fishing net. The new handsome guy, Alfred, with his keen hearing, he found a small stream, suggesting a richer fish resource. Having secured food and drink, his next step was to build a shelter, open grassland, and climbed a tree, using his weight to bend a trunk to form a horizontal beam for his shelter. He covered it with a waterproof tarp, secured it with ropes, and stabilized the lower edges with wooden sticks. His resting place for the night was all set. The next morning, Emma eagerly checked her catch. Not only did she not catch any fish, but her net also got stuck. With no other choice, she had to go into the water to salvage it. She didn't get far before her boots filled with water. It seemed she had to strip and get wet again. Just one day in, the young girl's spirit was already frazzled. On the other side, Alfred stripped to set his net and nearly froze himself to death. He decided to build a raft to fish. He chopped some spruce branches, tied them with nylon rope into a donut shape, fitting smaller circles inside larger ones, and used branches at the bottom for support. He trimmed the excess from the waterproof tarp, wrapped it around the raft's main body, and made a paddle with it. Ready to test the waters, his first successful voyage elicited an inhuman howl. Starving after 2 days, he couldn't wait to eat. However, by his expression, the food tasted awful. After a few bites, he couldn't take it anymore and swallowed the rest with water. He tried eel soup, which was also hard to swallow. But for the sake of surviving and winning $500,000, he just closed his eyes and gulped it down. The camera switched to Miguel. He bound 3 sticks together, set them up to form a triangle, and wrapped it with a waterproof tarp to make a conical tent. There was plenty of room inside, even after placing all his gear. He had a 3-year drug history, but thankfully turned around in nature's embrace, supported by his family, especially his loving daughter who greatly healed him. The contestant named Kim was happy to catch a big fish, but sadly watched it escape while pulling in the net. To prevent another tragedy, he decided to build a dock. He cut down a large tree, removed the excess branches, made 2 tripods, and drove them into the water. Then he laid some logs on top to form a footbridge. Carefully, he stood on it to arrange his fishing net, but fell before he could start. After getting ashore, he discovered a deep cut on his shin. In the wild, an untreated wound could lead to an infection and an early exit. Yet, driven by the lure of money, he persisted. After treating his wound, he began reinforcing the dock, adding another log for stability, and cautiously walked on it again. Once sure of its stability, he started showing off again. Miguel unknowingly caught an eel, fried it in a pan, and started eating. Just earlier, he thought of quitting because he missed his daughter, but now he feels he could live another 6 months without problems. Emma, having caught no fish, had to pick chicken fat mushrooms to stave off hunger. She enjoyed her meal and decided to upgrade her shelter after replenishing her energy. At dawn the next day, Ida rushed to the lakeside, confident she would find fish, though unsure how many. Jasper's cabin and bed frame were nearly complete, built with whole pine logs and gaps to be filled with moss later. His survival strategy was to finish the cabin before he ran out of stored fat. However, his age impacted his stamina, and soon he was lying on the grass, exhausted, lamenting the difficulty. His physical weakness and poor eyesight led to an accident while moving logs, as he didn't notice a stone piercing his foot. In the wild, even a small wound could cause infection. He quickly removed the stone, cleaned the wound, applied a bandage to keep it dry and clean. Ida had a rough night, her face swollen with bites. To get better sleep, she moved her sleeping bag to the riverbank, escaping the ants but despairing at the mosquitoes' return. The camera then turned to Torben, who had been busy building his shelter on the island. The materials used were of good quality, and the space inside was spacious. Even the floor was decorated with marble. Now that the shelter was complete, he could finally cook in peace. But despite his efforts, he had no catch by nightfall. Stina had not caught anything for 3 days, and would quit if she didn't catch any fish soon. To increase her chances, she made several new fishing lines. After much effort, she managed to cast 2 meters out, then lay on the rocks, gazing at the sky, praying for a meal. Kim is the only one without a shelter. He focused on gathering food, and today, crafted a raft. He successfully deployed his net in deep water 25 meters away. If he still doesn't catch fish, it must be bad luck. He has a happy family of 4, living in Calling City, but he enjoys wandering in the wilderness. Years of outdoor life have given him many survival skills. Fishing, hunting, and building shelters are easy for him. However, he was embarrassed when pulling in the net without any fish. After thinking, he concluded there were no fish here and decided to scout for a new campsite. While others struggle for food, Alfred considers nutrition. Eating grilled fish has caused constipation, so he turned to berries in the bushes. He enjoys the sun while eating the berries. After observing the surroundings for days, he found a perfect spot and plans to build a long-term shelter. First, he cuts a large tree to use as a beam, ties it with rope to a short stump, saws a notch at the bottom of the tree, and uses the rope to pull down the beam. He then collects materials to build a sturdy, warm shelter. Since Ida's successful catch of 5 fish, it seems the fish have disappeared. With no catch for days, she gathers berries to survive. Eating them reminds her of her family and her father, who she lost last summer. The sadness was eased by her pet horse, Eve, who became a new family member. She joined the competition hoping to find happiness and strength again. Stina is wiping away tears. She cries when hungry and has eaten only grass for 5 days, leaving her weak. Watching her shaky walk by the shore, I worry she might fall into the lake. Persistence pays off as she finally catches a fish, bringing a smile to her face. Now, it's time to enjoy her meal, and no adjective can describe her satisfaction. She is a controlling woman with mild OCD, which causes trouble in her life. She joined the competition to learn to control her emotions and treat her family better. Jasper's shelter is almost complete. He is inside, planning the installation of the fireplace and door. Suddenly, he rushes out as the moose he missed the previous night returns. Jasper caught a fish weighing at least 10 kilograms, laughing with a week's worth of food in hand. Kim's dock didn't disappoint either, holding the season's biggest fish. He hugged and kissed it joyfully. Ida has been unable to catch any more. Now she relies on finding plant roots to stave off hunger. These roots are rich in starch and taste somewhat like potatoes. To make the roots more palatable, she cooks them with chanterelle mushrooms, but they still didn't soften after cooking for a long time. She ended up just drinking some of the soup. By the 6th day, a storm hit the island, and Alfred found his tent leaking, almost soaking everything. To protect his gear, he rushed to finish building his new shelter in the rain. The camera then cuts to Kim, whose dwelling was flooded by rising lake waters, turning the stream by his door into a waterfall. He had to pack up, take down the tarp, and move to a pre-scouted location on the other side of the mountain. Sunny, wind-sheltered, and rich in berries like blueberries, blackberries, and cranberries. He also found a fallen tree to build a hidden shelter and discovered a natural fishing spot in a nearby bay. Suddenly, the crew's boat appeared, and although I thought Amy was giving up, it was Stina who left due to missing her family. Alfred has consistently caught fish and struggles with how to store them, while Ida, frustrated by her lack of catches, cried upon returning to camp and decided to try her luck by setting up several fishing rigs. On the 7th day, the long-missed sunshine returned, and Torben quickly dried some moss for insulation work on his house. Previously done by apprentices, now he had to do it himself. At 42, Torben is a self-employed carpenter known locally for his excellent craftsmanship. His house, while meticulous, still falls short compared to Alfred's, which is built around 4 large trees and uses logs for the walls. Alfred's attention to detail extends even to the pine branches he uses for his bed. The next morning, Ida cried again, saying she had lost something important. It turned out to be her saw. The crew's boat appeared shortly afterwards. After 8 days of competition, 2 have been eliminated, leaving 6 contestants facing new challenges. Emma's house, unseen for a few days, is now complete. She is now building herself a solid wood bed, and soon finish the bed, topping it with pine branches for a good night's sleep tonight. The next morning, she started the final step, making a frame out of branches, then tying on pine branches to create a door. Kim is far behind because he had to start from scratch due to moving. Fortunately, the location he chose is good and doesn't require many materials, so the frame was quickly set up. Alfred's fishing net only caught 3 small fish, and Miguel was even more unfortunate. He is a fitness coach who enjoys training in nature because it helps relax the body and rejuvenate the spirit. He dislikes sitting alone, so he had planned activities before arriving. However, it has been raining almost continuously since he arrived 9 days ago, which has made him consider quitting. The heavy rain also troubled Emma. Yesterday, she stored the fish she caught in a bag and pressed it under rocks in a creek for preservation. Now, the creek had turned into a flood. She tried to retrieve the fish, but was deterred by the strong current. All she can do now is pray for the rain to stop and check if the food is still there when the water recedes. You would never guess that this fish could be worth $1 million because, in this brutal survival challenge, it could help Jess survive another week. While thanking, Jess struck forcefully with a stick, followed by a knife, and then swiftly cleaned up. Suddenly, Jasper grabbed a stick and ran out when a donkey appeared in his vision. Although cautious, he startled the animal. The donkey, curious as if discovering a new species, slowly approached him. Perhaps sensing the danger, the donkey suddenly sprinted into the forest. Braving the rain, Miguel caught his first net of fish since arriving, which made him so excited that he sang and danced. Upon reaching the camp, he immediately started cooking. The smell of the fish suddenly made him miss his wife. He couldn't stay here a moment longer. Although reluctant to leave all his food, he decided to leave his stay to fate. If the leaf count was even, he would go home. He resolutely pressed the satellite phone. Miguel had been living well here, with a house and meat to eat. But ultimately, loneliness defeated him. The survival challenge has been going on for 13 days, with 5 out of 8 players remaining. Jasper, he can only sigh while looking at the lake, worried that his newly built house might be flooded if the rain continues. Torben, troubled by the bad weather, had to reel in his fishing net, but surprisingly caught a small fish before the rain resumed. Speaking of fishing, Alfred is the one to watch. You might think he only caught a stick, but he quickly followed that with 2 small fish, and almost lost his catch in excitement, but managed to retrieve it just in time. Now, he won't have to worry about food for a week. To prevent the fish from escaping again, he hit it with a large stone several times. Looking at his catch, he wonders whether to steam or braise the fish. Either way, with this quantity, he definitely won't finish eating them all. So, he skewers the fish on wooden sticks, finds a damp, mossy spot, and buries them in a pit, unsure how long this method of cold storage will last. Kim, since moving, spends a lot of time each day fetching water, consuming a lot of energy with only berries to stave off hunger. The big fish he caught before is long gone. Reminiscing about his glorious past days of coral harvesting, big fish angling, building igloos in the Arctic and trapping foxes, he refuses to accept his current plight of starvation. So, he packs up and heads to the bay where he had built a dock, hoping to catch some fish to satisfy his hunger. However, The recent heavy rain had destroyed the dock, leaving only a few logs washed ashore. Fortunately, there's a raft that allows him to set nets, but today's strong winds lead to failure. Cold and wet, he returns home to wait for better weather. Every time he sees Alfred, he is either cooking or eating fish. The challenge is going so well that Alfred even starts to dislike the taste of the fish, suspecting it might be going bad. For safety, he decides not to eat the fish. Emma is cooking, adjusting her diet after being constipated for 13 days, which she believes will successfully relieve her constipation, an issue that seems unusually prevalent this season. Watching Torben eat grass desperately, it's clear he's struggling too. Alfred, perhaps from eating too much grilled fish, faces the same problem. To address this, Emma increases her daily workload to get more exercise, sings to relieve inner anxiety, and even tries to express herself in front of the camera. But unfortunately, none of these methods have worked. On day 14, Jasper was finishing his new house. However, seeing the water level rising, even submerging the anthill he discovered earlier, he felt a bit panicked. As he placed the last stick on the wall, his cabin was perfectly completed. He hung a skeleton he found a few days ago on the wall. Looking at his hand-built cabin and its unique decor, he was quite pleased with himself. Today was also a routine medical checkup. Emma truthfully reported her physical condition, but chose not to give up. However, the next morning, the crew's boat appeared again in front of her. Due to Emma's physical condition not supporting her continuation in the contest, she had to exit the competition, albeit, sadly. Recently, the weather was either raining or windy. Even the fish king Alfred caught nothing but seaweed in his nets. However, on a day when everyone else came up empty, Torben surprisingly caught a fish. Although small, it was a lifesaver, especially in such harsh conditions. Every little turnaround brought immense hope. To survive, Kim had to take risks and set his nets again. With past failures and a strong desire to win, he finally managed to overcome the storm and set up his nets. But it was a long way home. 3 trips in one day exhausted him. On day 16, the water that was 40 feet deep yesterday had risen to 2 meters. Jasper's house had already become an island. Considering personal safety, he had to relocate reluctantly. Alfred's cabin was also leaking in multiple places. After several rounds, he found where the water was entering. Watching the water flow toward the sea through the drainage channel, Torben's cabin was not spared from the flooding disaster. He decided to move his home to the other side of the mountain. First, he moved the old house's timber to the new campsite, then placed a log between 2 trees and tied it tight. He laid a few sticks on top to create a simple flat roof and covered it with a waterproof cloth. Now he had a place to stay for the night. Sitting in his new home, he thought about how his big villa had turned into a melon shed and how his dining net was in a mess, which made him feel sad. While Jasper was still looking for a campsite, all the sheltered areas were flooded, and the dry spots were exposed to the wind. After searching all day without success, he hastily set up a makeshift shelter and lit a campfire at the entrance to make do for the night. The next day, he woke up in his cramped shelter and hurried back to his original cabin, hoping the lake had receded. Unfortunately, he found the water level even higher than before, making it impossible to return to his original shelter. Kim's home remained safe from the flood. Now settled on a southeastern hillside, at a high and sheltered location, the wind and rain barely troubled him. After lighting a campfire, he took out some smoked fish and brewed a pot of hot tea, enjoying his days comfortably. After half a month of rain, it finally cleared up today, and the sunshine healed everyone's bodies and spirits. But soon, a new round of challenges began, as their food supplies dwindled due to several days of storms. To retrieve the fishing nets he had previously set, Jasper bravely stripped and plunged into the cold water, unexpectedly catching 2 fish, 1 salmon and 1 slightly larger sea trout. This unexpected bounty was immediately prepared and eaten at the shelter's entrance. Satisfied, Jasper began whittling a piece of wood into a fish shape. He soon thought of his son, who loved fishing, and looking at a photo of them fishing and crabbing together, he kissed the photo and carved a wooden fish as a gift for his son. Alfred went to check his fishing nets at the river. As the nets were slowly pulled up, fish continuously surfaced. Today, he caught 6 fish. Having been hungry for several days, he immediately set up a grill on the shore. Unable to wait for the fish to cook thoroughly, He started eating right away, even cleaning out the fish brains. Jasper also had a good day with the 2 large fish he had eaten. He picked some horseradish leaves to make tea, which surprisingly tasted a bit like cola. This spirit of making the best of a bad situation increasingly resembled that of a champion. Kim's fishing nets were swept away by the rising tide. He had to remove his pants and go into the water to look for them. There was a slight sign of inflammation on his previous wounds. The upper part was healing well, but the lower part was slightly red, indicating a risk of infection. He decided to see the day's catch before deciding whether to quit the contest for treatment. After searching for a while, he found the fishing net, but it was stuck at the bottom of the lake. He pulled hard and fortunately had another net in the deep water, which he quickly retrieved by kayak. This net was filled with fish, 11 in total. This miraculous turnaround brought him 1 step closer to the championship. He hung the fish inside to dry and then began looking for materials to make smoked fish, putting his leg injury out of his mind. Both of his fishing nets were damaged beyond repair. Losing the nets in this place meant losing his source of food. He didn't believe he could survive on grass alone, so he decisively called the show's crew. When asked why he chose to exit the competition now, he explained, "I can now see that my chances of success here are 0. When I can't catch fish, I can't stay here." Unfortunately, Torben exited the competition. With Torben's departure, only 3 of the original 8 challengers remain. Ever since his encounter with a moose, Jasper has been obsessed with it. Catching it would mean winning $500,000 easily. For this, he specifically made a large bow to start his hunting journey. He had experience hunting wild boars, and although it had been many years, he still believed in his skills. On the 19th day, with the weather clear and the tide low, Jasper moved back to his original cabin. Hanging family photos on the wall instantly gave the cabin a homey feel. After setting up his bed, he began practicing archery. His posture looked promising, but it was uncertain how accurate he was. Over the days, he truly became a wild man. When tired, he stood in the sun to absorb some vitamin D. When hungry, he sat by the lake and used the power of meditation to beg for a fish. Perhaps the heavens took pity on him as he actually caught 2 fish, though his eating manners were quite beast-like. How long must one be hungry to ignore appearances like that? After refueling, he started his hunting journey, climbing to the mountaintop with his bow and arrows. On the other side of the mountain, Alfred was enjoying the sunset while eating grilled fish. He had lost count of how many fish he had eaten during this time, given the current situation. As long as he didn't waste his resources, outlasting his opponents and winning the championship seemed feasible. Kim shivered through the night. As soon as day broke, he started repairing the shelter. First, he cut down several large trees to secure the waterproofing on the roof. Then, he stuffed the walls with reindeer lichen he had dried a few days earlier to fill the gaps. The lichen not only insulated well, but could also be used to make soup for sustenance in winter, serving 2 purposes. After tidying up the exterior, he patched up the interior, making the house noticeably warmer. Jasper recently started catching fish non-stop. His cabin's grill smoked with 5 fish and 2 more simmered in a pot. After his unsuccessful deer hunt, fishing became his top priority, aiming to stock up before winter. Kim's cabin was filled with fish slices. Recently, he couldn't bear to eat the fish he caught, opting instead to eat only the fish hearts and heads for sustenance. Besides, he continuously gathered berries, boasting a bag weighing over 10 kilograms, enough to last him half a month. Meanwhile, Alfred seemed to have caught another fish, definitely the biggest this season. He showed it off in front of the camera before even removing it from the net. Eating fish daily worsened his constipation, prompting him to search for berries to balance his diet. After much effort, he found some cranberries and eagerly stuffed them into his mouth, only to discover a patch of blueberries soon after. Excited by the vitamin C, he began frantically collecting them. Jasper made a bow drill to pass time. Proudly watching the fire he started, he felt the tea tasted better. Alfred enjoyed another bountiful day of fishing, quickly pulling up his catch. The only downside was the freezing weather making it hard to fish with stiff fingers. He clumsily tried to light a fire to warm his hands, but the flint seemed to mock him, refusing to spark. Failing to start a fire, he decided to move around to warm up and began constructing a door for his house. He built a frame and crossed 2 beams before filling it with spruce branches to create a cold-resistant door. On day 27, Jasper appeared with a cup of orange liquid, claiming it cured ailments brought on by the weather change. For Kim, It was a special day as he couldn't celebrate his son's birthday. He sang a birthday song on the show, tearing up as homesickness started to set in. On day 28, the cold weather intensified further. Alfred's boat was covered in ice. He broke off a piece of ice and put it in his mouth. As he moved his iced-over boat to set up fishing nets, his fingers became numb with cold. He hoped to catch as many fish as possible before everything froze over. Kim also went to the bay to check his fishing nets. Unfortunately, his net got stuck, and it took a lot of effort to retrieve it. Despite the trouble, he managed to catch 5 fish. On the 28th day of the survival challenge, Jasper showed me a slice of raw fish. With food supplies running low in winter, Jasper rationed the fish over 3 days. Now, only a fish head remained. He noted a significant loss of body fat and felt he had to secure more meat soon, or he might not last much longer. Although Alfred consistently caught fish, the lack of fat in his diet was problematic. Kim, rationing his limited supply, divided the 5 fish over 3 days, which was clearly insufficient for an adult man. Thus, he gathered some worms as bait, hoping to catch more fish. Jasper seemed out of sorts, feeling ineffective at everything and losing the will to continue. His newly made bow and arrow went unused as he decided to go home. Now, the ultimate showdown was between Alfred and Kim, but only one could win. Kim was fortifying his shelter against the nightly frost, while Alfred harvested berries before the onset of winter. As the weather grew colder, berries became scarce. Kim built a natural icebox to store the berries, checking the bottom layer to ensure none were rotten. This storage method proved reliable. However, the fish Kim recently caught were getting smaller, although the quantity was still substantial. Due to the exhausting trek required to check the nets, he could only gather fish every 3 days. To outdo Kim, Alfred deployed 2 fishing nets, paddling his small boat to set up his battlefield. If he could double his catch, his chances of winning would also double. Alfred finally enjoyed a significant catch, with 5 fish reinvigorating him. Back at the shelter, he cooked the fish, which tasted excellent. By day 42 of the competition, food was becoming increasingly difficult to secure. Kim, who worked hard fishing at the bay, caught nothing, burning significant calories with nothing to show for it, leaving him extremely disheartened. Meanwhile, Alfred spent his time crafting, carving a piece of wood while thinking of his mother, intending to make a candlestick as a gift. 2 days later, it was time for Kim to check his nets again. He pulled hard on the ropes, risking tearing the net. And indeed, just as I feared, the net was lost. He quickly took his boat to check another net, but unfortunately, it too was firmly stuck. Not daring to pull too hard for fear of losing this net as well, he relied on berries to stave off hunger. After eating, he devised a plan to salvage the fishing net, making a hook from some wire and setting off on his raft with tools. Soon, he successfully retrieved the sunken net, pulling it up to discover a large fish caught in it. The joy was overwhelming. Not only did he retrieve his net, but he also gained an extra 6 fish. Alfred predicted a storm was coming. He prepared for wind and cold, collecting spruce branches to seal the gaps in his door, then reinforcing the roof and walls. After securing his shelter, he turned his boat upside down to prevent it from being blown away. The next day, strong winds indeed struck, shaking Alfred's cabin to the core. He quickly added more branches to the roof before taking refuge inside. But the wind was so strong, it blew the waterproof sheet right onto his roast fish, leaving him somewhat despondent, unsure if his cabin would withstand the hurricane. Kim's cabin, located on the leeward slope, remained secure, and he spent a leisurely time inside, drinking tea by the fire. By day 53, it began to snow on the island, making food even harder to come by. Alfred's nets caught no fish, and the fish Kim caught were pitifully small. Faced with a food shortage, Kim dug up the fly larvae he had buried earlier, now grown into maggots. It took great courage to consider eating them, so he decided to use them as fish bait instead. On day 58, Alfred's nets finally caught a fish. Though only one, at such a critical moment, a single fish could decide who stays and who goes. Just when I thought he had the competition in hand, he unexpectedly announced his withdrawal. The official reason was homesickness, but had he known he was the only competitor left struggling, he surely would have regretted his decision. Yet, that's life. You never know if your choices are right, you just have to own them to the end. With Alfred gone, Kim won the championship. The production team pretended to give him a medical check, but actually brought his family to surprise him. When his wife and children suddenly appeared from behind, he burst into tears. "Kim, you've won! You've won!" He showed his family around his cabin and shared his stored berries with his children. It was no easy feat, so let's congratulate Kim on winning this season's championship.